So how do you make those decisions? That's quite hard, isn't it? Because sometimes there's a information overload, isn't it? Because sometimes you have different people telling you different things. Are you like President Obama? President Obama used to say that if he's got 50% of the information, he'll he'll go for it because he just says he just hasn't got time to always know the right answer. But luckily, it works out for him. That's what he's.
Well, I don't know. I think the Obama thing's interesting. There's a sort of a parallel thing, which is somebody said if you're going into a new company, in the first 100 days, you will make, maybe 100 decisions,
Yeah.
and you'll get 80 of them right, and you'll get 20 of them wrong,
Mm-mm.
but you'll have made 80 decisions,
Yeah.
and you'll
Yeah.
have moved forwards. And I tend to apply three lenses on most of the decisions that we make as a business. One is, does it fit with the culture and the strategy of the business? So
Mm.
is this something that will help with Andrew's reputation in the market? So strategically, is it good? Secondly, is it commercially sound? So is the effort worth the return that we're going to make, and will it add to the profitability of the business?
Mm.
And then the third thing is really just, what are the costs and risks of doing this? Is
Mm.
it increasing the risk that we face as a business, and can we accept that or not? And
Mm.
we've had some difficult conversations with people who've previously worked with Andrews and provided sort of propositions at the periphery, and they've really wanted to sell in those propositions to our teams,
Mm.
but actually they don't fit with the brand, so they're not good for our customers. The commercial case is relatively modest, and they increase the risk that the shareholders are facing.
Mm.
And so, I think if you apply decisions in a strategic way like that,
Mm.
and then you surround yourself with people who know what they're doing.
Mm.
So David, my commercial director, and Harad, the lettings director, Simon, my people director, they're really high quality people who've
Mm.
run big businesses before and been successful. And so
Mm.
my job is to provide the cheerleading and the direction, and they run things day to day.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So what do you think the biggest three things that sellers want from an agency at the moment? What's the biggest challenges that they face, and how are Andrews trying to deal with those?
Yeah, at the risk of repeating myself, I think it's about being able to be honest and have an honest dialogue with both the vendor and the buyer.
Mm.
So what we pride ourselves on is accurately pricing.
Mm.
So we're working on at the moment a press release, and the press release is for looking at the disconnect between pricing and length to sell.
Yeah.
And so the research says that if you overprice, then you can end up, taking 2-3 times longer to sell,
Mm.
and probably you'll end up, potentially realizing less than you would have
Mm.
realized if you priced accurately.
Mm.
And so that's our proposition. We try to be honest with the customer, and that won't work with everybody. Some people want to sell the house at the highest price, or to try it at the highest price. So
Mm.
for me, it's honest dialogue, acting with integrity. So if we take on a sale, or a landlord to let a property, or a tenant to let it from the landlord, we try to build a dialogue with all parties
Mm.
and be honest. So we live and die by our brand, our reputation, and the fact that they consider us trustworthy. So, I mean, for me, those are the three things that people are looking for. You know,
How do you do that? Because you're right. It's about having open dialogues and things like that. But kind of, after the deal's done, agents are really good, and you get good and bad agents, get good and bad lawyers. But after that offer's made, how do you keep that open dialogue? Because you kind of have filters like conveyancers that are there. So what do you do? Do you have any things that you use to make that process better? Or
yeah, well, so there are cultural elements. So we as a business, we're on. I mean, and don't for a minute think we're wholly finished. We're not the finished article
yeah.
yet, but we're trying to impress upon our people that one of our key values is customer, treating
Mm.
each customer as if they're our only customer,
Mm.
and therefore we have to deliver on that promise. So if we're going to stand behind our brand, we have to deliver that promise. So a big part of our proposition and our communications to the frontline teams is about being trusted and admired, and
Mm.
doing what we say we're going to do. So there's that. From a day-to-day managing the business point of view, our values are at the heart of everything we do.
Mm.
And then I think the second thing is, and this will be increasingly prevalent, I think, in the industry in the future. But what we're starting to see now is people who try and align the value chain and the partnerships that they form behind their values.
Yeah.
So we will only work, or we will influence people that we work with to be consistent with our values, so that we deliver a proposition. So we work with Simplify as a conveyancer, and they support our customers. And it's really important to me when I talk to David at Simplify and his team that we have a shared view in terms of the importance of customer experience, trust, and consistency.
Yeah.
And we don't always get it right. So sometimes, if a customer, receives a recommendation and takes on a conveyancer, Andrew's recommendation, it's my reputation or our reputation, Andrew's,
Mm.
even though we're not physically doing the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important, therefore, that if we're going to deliver, we choose the right partners.
Yeah.
And, we work with Simplify in that area, and we work to maintain the same proposition,
Yeah. Yeah.
because ultimately they're an extension of the Andrews proposition.
Well, they are 100%, and that's one of the reasons that I became a solicitor in the end, because the lawyers, they do massively impact on your name. So although quite rightly, Carl, you say that the service is provided by the lawyers, actually you're the guys that recommended it, and it always used to impact on us when we get the wrong lawyers on. So that's one of the reasons we actually just changed. So I think that's really, really important. So Carl, go on. So you everyone goes through change, and there's lots of change happening at the moment. You seem to be really pushing it, but everyone's suffering change. So what's your tips for how should you manage change with an organisation? What are your sort of golden go-tos?
Yeah, well, I mean, you recommended me a book earlier, so I'll reciprocate. The book that I really like is called Leading Change by John Cotter. I think it's an American academic who's, quite widely published, but he espouses 10 simple processes or 10
Yeah,
simple steps. But it's things like, creating a coalition to drive the change. So here at Andrews, what I've done is I've built a leadership team. So my top 25 people. And then what I do is I make sure that we stay tight and stay aligned, and that we support the change agenda together.
mm,
Um, and I think, if there were only one thing that I was picking from the list of, how to do change, it's communication.
mm,
Where a lot of things fall down is in not aligning the organization behind the change. So people, they either go off on at a tangent, or they don't hear what's expected of them. And so I put a lot of energy, maybe, you know, half of my time goes into communicating with people, either one-on-one or by email or by Teams or physically. Um,
And what
and,
do you
and I,
do, Carl? Because you're busy. It's a big organisation. What do you do? Do you do that at the leadership level, and they filter it down, or I mean, I see you do quite a lot of you do lots of meetings with people, so you're already doing it. But
yeah, well, I mean, I try and find a balance. So I certainly communicate from the centre for that to be cascaded. And then what I try and do is put in place processes around that,
mm,
like the brew and a chat,
mm,
where people can test their understanding and I can reinforce the key messages. I think the most, and this is an often misunderstood aspect of communication, but the biggest bit of communication is often what you do, how you behave. So, people think of emails or
mm,
Teams meetings as communication. Well, they are,
mm,
but I think in our society, something like 60% of all communication is non-verbal. It's what we do.
yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah.
say I say to you, look, you can trust me. I won't let you down, and then I let you down.
Mm,
Or, you see me parking on double yellow lines.
mm.
That questions my integrity. So I have to think really hard about how I act and behave and
Yeah.
how
So
my
you lead
leadership.
by your actions, really, Carl. I think
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. We have to role model. So
mm,
a big part of being a leader at Andrews is role modeling the change.
mm,
So acting in the way that we want our people to act.
mm. Yeah, absolutely right. And I think there's a really good there's a video on YouTube. It's called The Dancing Man. So
Oh,
I
yeah, I've
recommend that
seen
to
that.
you.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
I have. Yeah, when he
Uh,
gets up and dances, and then the second guy gets up and dances,
exactly,
and then
exactly.
before you know it, the whole field is kind of raving.
Exactly. It won't make any sense to them, but everyone listening, go and watch it because it's really, really good. And they say that the leader's obviously very important, but it's actually the next few people that come along and join the leaders, which are almost
The
more
active
important.
followers, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Reminded me, seeing it reminded me of when I used to go to Cream in Liverpool in the 90s. Unbelievable now, but back then it was fun.
Um, yeah, so I think that's right. I mean, I think you need strong leaders, but you also need strong people that believe in those values. And I think you must recruit. You're a value based business, so you must recruit on those values as well. You look for partners with those values, so your recruitment must focus on that. Do you have your values? How do people know about your values? Have you got an intranet, or do you have them posted up somewhere and things like
Yeah, so I mean, you can see this behind me here. This is one of our values. So
that?
I don't know if you can read that, but it says we treat every customer as our only customer.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
that's one of our three values,
Yeah.
and we try and weave them into everything that we do in terms of
Yeah.
communication. When we do people's performance appraisals, so when we
Mm,
sit down and talk about their performance, we use the values for the conversation. So
mm.
you have to live it. Um,
Yeah. 100%.
and
Yeah.
the first time that I ignore a customer call, so I was at home, not this weekend, the weekend before, and I got an email through from a customer, one of our leasehold company customers,
Mm,
complaining that they tried to get a security door fixed, but the contractor hadn't come, and the block was open and was potentially people could break in and steal stuff.
mm,
And so I thought, well, I can either pretend I didn't see the email, which wouldn't have been very sort of robust or acting
mm,
with integrity, or I can try and sort it out. So I
mm.
replied to the customer, and then I phoned one of our leasehold property managers and explained, and that person was out and about on the way home and said, I'll pick it up, I'll talk to the contractor, and then I'll update you. And
Yeah.
we managed to get a response to the customer a couple of hours later, and they were really grateful.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And so, if I don't live that, treat
Mm,
every customer as our only customer value, then
mm,
I can't expect my people to.
mm. Yeah, I strongly believe in that. I mean, I think values, if anyone hasn't got written value statements, I think they're really, really crucial. And quite often the mistakes that people make is they make the values too complicated. So no one really understands them. So I think having simple values, like you set out your values very concisely, and everyone can have their own different values, but you've got to write them down if that's your business values. And
Yeah, absolutely.
living by them, I think is very important, and the bit people seeing you live by that. So I make my like you. I don't know how that guy got a hold of your details, but like my mobile is available for all our as agents. We work with agents, so anyone that's available to them. But when our team see that, they make themselves available as well. So I think what you said is absolutely right. You've got to lead from the front, and if you get the right people that believe in the same things you believe in, you're going to give an amazing service because
Yeah, absolutely. I
everyone's
mean,
saying the same thing.
in terms of values, we keep our values really simple. So we only have three.
Mm,
It's we treat every customer as if they're our only customer. We
mm,
value our people, and then we believe in giving back, which is the charitable element. So a lot of our people get involved in charitable initiatives,
yeah,
either our own or other charities. So we keep it simple. There are three values, and then we weave them into everything we do, whether
I like
that's
it.
reward and recognition, communication. You're right. When we recruit people, we try and recruit people who share the values.
Mm,
So, we don't necessarily want people who are only interested in how much money can I personally earn from this.
mm, mm,
We expect to pay our people and pay them well, but we also expect them to operate to the values because the values are who we are.
That's right. And as I say, everyone can have their own values, but you got to get people right on board. So is it Jim Collins who said put the right people on the bus, talking about the right people to do those jobs, but you got to get the right people that believe they're on the right bus. First,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jim Collins is a bit of a legend as well,
yeah,
alongside John Cotter. There's some, I mean, the thing is, a lot of these problems in business have been addressed in other sectors and in
yeah,
the past. And, there's a lot coming back to what we were talking about earlier. There's a lot that Andrews and the property sector can take from the best of what's happened in other sectors. I mean, we want to be a brand. So Andrews wants to be a brand. Now everybody wants to be a brand, but being a brand means standing for something and delivering on something. So, when I look at the market, there are a lot of companies. It's quite fragmented. There are people who are one branch and they have a brand, but their brand is limited in terms of its reach. And then there are those at the other end with 1,000 branches. At the end of the day, though, it's not clear to me what some of those brands really stand for. What are they going to not stand for, and what are they going to stand for? And Andrews wants to be a brand, and we want to be considered to stand for something, which is why values are important. Doing the right thing is important, and that's at the heart of who we are and our strategy. I think once you get to that place, then you've kind of succeeded. We don't benchmark ourselves against competitors. So, clearly from a salary point of view, we have to pay and look at what is paid in a local market. What I mean by that is, I'm not comparing Andrews with the best in this market. I'm comparing Andrews with the best in every market. So, for example, in banking, First Direct is
So you use a net promoter score, Carl? Is that what you do, or do you do something
well,
different to that?
at the minute, we're on a bit of a voyage of discovery in terms of how best to measure it. But Net Promoter Score is where we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Currently, we use Trustpilot, which has strengths and weaknesses. But I think the point generally I'm kind of espousing is I don't want to be considered better than everybody else in a state agency. I want to be compared against, say, John Lewis and Waitrose from a supermarket point of view.
Best in the country, best in the world, yeah.
First Direct in banking, that kind of thing. So it's about resetting the. If you want to be better, I think resetting the bar in terms of expectations becomes important.
I think that's crucial. I mean, one of our goals is be world class. I mean, I think that is something that people can easily see. You can always look at what you're producing and say, is this world class? Is this going to be better than, say, not every for conveyancers? We don't really just want to compare ourselves with conveyancers. We want to compare ourselves with Amazon, John Lewis, as you say, First Direct, because they're the guys with the best net promoter scores in the world, and that's really what type of service we want to perform. And I think if you've got those high goals, like you say, raise the benchmark, people will follow that. They'll come to that. Whereas if you're not aiming at that, what motivation are you going to give your people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Carl, I've only got one more question. It's not directly to do with work, and I didn't ask you about this, but I'll ask you. I ask all my guests this, and if you've had £100 to spend, what's one thing you would say to people? You must go out and buy this because I, Carl Howard, can't do without it. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be not work related. It could be anything. So
can I give you two answers?
You can give me two answers, Carl. Yeah.
So practically speaking, my first answer would be, I really love my Google pods.
Okay. Yeah. Are they good? Are they? Are they good?
Yeah, they're excellent. No, not the. I don't have the Pro. I just got the standard ones.
Yeah.
But the Google in-ear phones are excellent, and they're about.
Right.
If you get them on deal, they're about 80 quid. So
Okay.
since I got them, it's been transformational for phone calls.
Oh. Wow.
And then the second thing I would say is put £100 of petrol in a motorbike.
Okay.
And see where you can get to. I like motorbikes.
Yeah.
I'm a sort of although I wanted one as a lad, I didn't, and I got into them about 10 years ago.
Right.
And you can have so much sort of freedom and relaxation because you have to concentrate and you get to see the country, but you get to kind of enjoy the wind in your hair as well.
Yeah.
So I think I'd probably put £100 in a petrol tank.
Yeah. How many miles did that get you to?
I came down to from Harrogate to Keynsham on one of my motorbikes yesterday, and it takes about £40 of petrol.
Oh,
and
wow.
It'll do 320 miles for that.
Right. Okay. So you got the whole country really. So
yeah. £100 in that bike would get me probably Land's End to John O'Groats or something like that.
Fair enough. Carl, thank you so much for your time. I hope our listeners. I learned a lot from that. I think it's really interesting. The things you said. I love your values. It's very. What I found very interesting is I've always believed that it's spend time working on your business. Obviously, you're the size of company you can afford to do that. You've got the staff to do that. But I encourage everyone, start spending more time organising your business rather than working in your business, and it just catapults you into a different tier. I love the fact that you're raising the standards, and you got high expectations, and you're putting in place strategies for you to get there. So I think it's been really good. I think people learn a lot from this. So Carl, thank you very much for your time.
It's my absolute pleasure, Tony. Really good to speak, and look forward to
I'm going to go and get my Google Pods now as well. So, but I
exactly.
can't put £100 in bikes. I haven't got one, but I'm getting my Google Pods definitely.
Get a motorbike. It's life changing.
Exactly. Thanks, Carl. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care.